Given the ubiquity of the internet, you've probably seen these debates regarding God's existence. These debates are fascinating and compelling entertainment, and I hate them with a passion. Why? Because unless the atheist begins a debate on the existence of God by clarifying before one word is said that the question of God's existence cannot be answered merely with arguments, the atheist will appear to lose. And so far, I haven't seen a single atheist do this.
Deductive arguments just don't work.
What is required to establish the existence of God is evidence. And arguments are simply not evidence. Don't get me wrong, arguments are an effective tool of persuasion. But to establish the actual existence of something, God, fairies, Bigfoot, Urkel, you need actual evidence. This is one of the great insights that launched the scientific revolution. Arguments in and of themselves, regardless of how sound, bring with them not 1 ounce of actual knowledge.
No! You blew it.
Outside pure mathematics. Arguments by themselves are proof of nothing. In essence, the methods of science are built on one very simple notion. The human heart and the human brain, they suck, and they cannot be trusted. In science, an argument by itself is simply an hypothesis for which one would then need to gather evidence and run experiments in order to confirm the hypothesis. But the argument or hypothesis is the beginning of the process, not the end. The argument itself settles nothing, and by itself warrants no conclusion. The hypothesis may be right, but it is not the argument itself that tells us so. It's the evidence gathered and tested which confirms the argument, or hypothesis. Many seemingly self-evident hypotheses have crashed and burned in the light of a well-constructed experiment or new evidence. In fact, an argument or hypothesis being confirmed by evidence and experiment is the exception, not the rule. Because anyone can make up an argument or come up with an hypothesis. Few, however, can back up that hypothesis or argument with supporting evidence. In talking to believers, as I've done for the past 22 years, I found that this idea about knowledge and intuition is at the core of what most divides skeptics from believers. I understand that something can make absolute perfect sense. It can be as intuitively rational and seemingly self-evident as anything can possibly be. And it can also be dead wrong.
Just when I think you've said the stupidest thing ever, you keep talking.
You could make a square circle.
This is why an argument for the existence of God is insufficient and unpersuasive. It's why atheists like me currently reject all claims regarding the existence of a supernatural being. I remain open to the possibility, but I need more than an argument. I need actual evidence. Now, having said that, let's look at the single most popular argument for God's existence. The argument presented at virtually every debate regarding the existence of God, the Kalam cosmological argument. The argument is a simple syllogism and goes like this.
1. Everything that begins to exist has a cause. 2. The universe began to exist. 3. Therefore, the universe has a cause.
Then, theists go on to say that this cause is the God of classical theism. The first problem with this argument, aside from the fact that it is merely an argument, is that premise 1, everything that begins to exist has a cause, is simply, well, argumentative. Do we know that everything that begins to exist has a cause? Intuitively, that statement makes perfect sense, and I'll even admit that I can't think of anything that began existing without a cause. But given the history of ideas which seemed intuitively self-evident and were later proved to be completely wrong, I just can't find this argument in any way compelling, not if I'm being intellectually honest. The bigger problem with Kalam is that it does nothing to establish that this cause is any kind of God, let alone the God of Abraham. Even if sound, Kalam tells us only that our universe has a cause. Arguments in and of themselves, regardless of how sound, bring with them not 1 ounce of actual knowledge. It does not, let me repeat, it does not tell us what that cause is. To presume to know anything more about this cause is an unwarranted leap. And if you're going to make an unwarranted leap, you don't need a good argument to do so. What exactly does Kalam tell us about this cause? Does it tell us that this cause is the God of classical theism? No. Does Kalam tell us that this cause is beyond space and time? No. Does Kalam tell us that this cause is without a beginning? No. Does it tell us that this cause is all-powerful, all-knowing, all-good? No. Does Kalam even tell us that this cause is a personal being, let alone a personal being who cares for Homo sapiens in the early part of the 21st century? No. Kalam, even if sound, leaves us once again with nothing but our ignorance. And unfortunately for many believers, this ignorance is sufficient. In fact, Kalam really is nothing but another argument from ignorance. We don't know what caused the universe, so there must be a God. If you break down the structure there, all arguments from ignorance are the same. Finally, that theists actually have to debate the existence of God is the ultimate admission of modern theism's emptiness, made even emptier by the fact that all they can do is present arguments.